Welcome to the first episode of the CLV Revolution podcast. In this first episode, we'll talk, of course, about Chapter 1. I had an amazing conversation with Professor Michael Schrage, a renowned thought leader and author specializing in innovation and customer lifetime value, of course. With an academic career spanning multiple decades as a researcher at MIT, he has advised Fortune 500 companies, startups, and governmental agencies on how to foster a culture of customer centricity and innovation. His groundbreaking book, Who Do You Want Your Customers to Become, has become a seminal text in the field, challenging organizations to rethink their approach to customer relationships. He invites businesses to view customers not as endpoints, but as catalysts for organizational transformation. Listen to this episode to find why customer lifetime value is not just a metric, who should be held responsible for improving the customer lifetime value, what stops companies from caring about their customers, how the organizational inertia is actually organizational resistance, and how democratizing access to customer data can influence not just the perception, but the entire company culture. So, hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of the CLV Revolution. We are going to focus today on Chapter 1, which is about the decision making, the fact that customer lifetime value can be changed. It's my pleasure and honor to be here with Michael Schrage, which is the author of many books, but one book in particular is an amazing one. Who do you want your customers to become? So first of all, thanks for joining me into this session.
It's a pleasure. And I had the good fortune to read all of your books. So I look forward to going beyond Chapter 1 in this conversation.
Super. So first of all, why don't we start by letting us know a bit about why do you like customer lifetime value? Why do you think it's important in the today's context?
Well, I think it's important for a couple of obvious reasons. Most important, in my opinion, is it sends a clear signal to the organization that organizationally, attitudinally, and even operationally, you are not looking just to optimize a transaction. You are looking to facilitate or enable a relationship. And not just a relationship as a moment in time, a relationship that can be assessed as a lifetime relationship. So you are immediately encouraging and focusing and emphasizing what do you want your longer-term relationship with your customer to be. And secondarily, but perhaps just as important, you're also assigning a measure to this, that there's value. And just to leap a tiny bit ahead, sorry for my long-winded answer, RFM is a very good base for this, but there are so many aspects and attributes of what it means to be a customer or a client that RFM may be a good starting point, but that's all it is. It's a starting point. And it may even be a starting point that, pun intended, buys you a lot. But what I really think of RFM is as the first and essential step to developing a more holistic insight into and relationship with your customers and clients over a lifetime. Ideally, your lifetime and theirs.
Excellent. So I want to touch a bit on the subject of leadership as being the driving force of change. So basically, we've all seen companies that weren't there. I've also touched the examples of Blockbuster and Netflix and Kodak, right, and whatever. But what do you think is the role of the CEO or the CFO, let's say the C-level execs? What is their role in making the company customer centric?
Well, it's exactly that. I mean, I think the examples and anecdotes and cases you offer in the book are very useful and illustrative of this larger point you're trying to get me to make on your behalf. which is you're killing yourself if you put CLV under the remit overwhelmingly of the chief marketing officer. The idea that you're using CLV, customer lifetime value, as a silo metric rather than as an integrative metric, as a metric that facilitates and encourages interoperability between functions, between customer support, between onboarding, between customer acquisition. I mean, that's crazy to my mind. So yes, I think one of the biggest mistakes, and I've lived through it as have you, one of the biggest mistakes I observed is that the CEO and the CFO and the non-executive member of the board say, yes, we need to become more customer-centric. You, CMO that we hired from a consumer packaged goods agency, you're in charge of being customer-centric. And we want you to use the CLV metric as one of your things to show us and prove to us that you're really being customer-centric. Now go away and do it. Go away and be customer-centric. Come back if you need anything. I am embarrassed to tell you, I'm not really embarrassed, it's not my fault. What I just said isn't a one-off or a two-off. I've probably heard that over half a dozen times, even during the pandemic.
Yeah. What do you think happened in this corporate environment to lead us there? Do you think this is due to the, let's say, data literacy, due to the education, or due to the fact that if it's about the customers, it's about the marketing to improve the value that we squeeze out of them?
I'll be mildly provocative. It's because a significant minority of leaders, in single quotes, are dishonest with themselves and with their employees. I will, forgive me for doing this to you. You were kind enough to mention my book, Who Do You Want Your Customers to Become? My wife happens to be the CEO of a WPP company. She is very good. She is very smart. I question her taste in men, but the reality is she is interested in the who do you want your customers to become framing. And she literally asked the CMO of a very large CPG company, global CPG company that you would know, and I will not betray her confidence on this, but she said, well, who do you want your customers to become? And this person paused, and I swear to God, this is what my wife told me. The answer was, we want our customers to become people who buy more of our stuff. No, yeah. Seriously, that's close to a verbatim answer. Why am I telling this story? Not just because of it, because oftentimes that's what leaders confuse and conflate customer lifetime value with. It's sales, more sales. A loyalty program isn't about loyalty, it's about repeat buying. And that is why, just to create the illusion of continuity here, even though I think RFM is important, it is too easy for too many leaders and salespeople and chief commerce officers to interpret RFM as, oh, that's an interesting approach to getting insight into sales. Whereas the narrative arc and core of your book is about insights and relationships with and relationships for your customers that add value to both the soulmates and the lovers, and even the typical and average customers.
Yeah, I find it amusing how you've described it, but I totally relate to that, and I think it has a lot to do with this. Let's say, disjunction between the company journey and their stakeholders and the customer journey. So
That is such a profound insight because, and this is something you could have done in your book, you could have shown the discontinuity and disconnect between the company journey and the customer journey. Because who's in charge? It's marketing who's in charge of the customer journey, or sales that's in charge of the customer journey. And you and I both know that sometimes when you try to add customer support in there, there's a complete breakdown. And that is why the Salesforce.com innovation of the customer success manager was such an interesting one, because it gives you a different organizational platform and pillar, not just to incorporate RFM data, but to invite insights around upselling, actual use cases, how use cases evolve, and customer and client segmentation and clustering around value-added use cases versus typical use cases.
Yeah. I want to touch a bit on the subject of the of customer research, because we've seen that everybody talks about our customers are important, we love them, we want to satisfy them. I mean, we've seen all this politics or external narrative, but few are the companies that are really aware about the need of having this constant awareness about where their customers are going. And as you've outlined in your book, they need to be seen as catalysts for change. And I wanna touch on this subject, on how to make companies care enough and actually do this type of research, not only the shallow customer satisfaction monitoring, let's say.
I agree with you that even though things like CSAT and NPS are important, what you are arguing in this is the better and more appropriate role. I think your book does a very good job of articulating and describing both the ideal customer profile and the jobs to be done use case aspect. I think the challenge there is, to what extent do you use the ideal customer profile as the beginning of a customer transformation rather than a description of who you are trying to deliver a product, service, experience, value-added use case, completion, jobs to be done, orchestration too. That's where I would write. My experience is that for the most part, organizations are doing a much better job of doing customer journeys as a function of use case. They're not doing a particularly good job of aligning use cases, journeys, customer segmentation, and this, to my mind, is key, customer transformation. Just to be self-serving, the single biggest intellectual and conceptual criticism I have of your book and your approach, and we can experiment on this with OmniConvert, perhaps, with some of the people choosing to listen on this. It's, what does it mean? If you have customer lifetime value, they're not just sheep you're going to shear. You can invest in them. You can train them. You can educate them. You can introduce them to one another. You can give them recommendations. So the whole notion of how do you boost CLV by making targeted investments in the capabilities, competencies, creativity of your clients, the human capital of your clients, that strikes me as a real opportunity. And if you look at some of your use cases, healthcare, energizing, vitamins, certain kinds of clothes, there's a certain opportunity there for elevating the customer themselves, not just elevating the customer journey and customer experience. So this strikes me as a real opportunity for a variety of different organizations. And as you yourself pointed out, a variety of different customer profiles, your soulmates, your lovers, the ones who are kind of sort of curious, but need another reason to become more engaged or involved. Again, apologies for such a long answer.
No problem. It's we're both on the same side with this, and I know that there was a lot of room to grow and to expand my book indeed. And of course, this new wave of going beyond RFM segmentation, it's indeed it gave me a lot of internal debates towards should I go into the generative AI? Should I go to clustering? Should I talk about DB scan? Should I talk about different clusters? And then the other voice in me said, you know what, you want to do this like an initial let's say step towards customer lifetime value. And if I would be doing too much, my reluctance said that I was reluctant that people will not be able to, let's say, digest, because I want to make it like a let's democratize customer lifetime value. Let's pinpoint what should be, why is it important, what should it be adopted.
I think that was brilliant and spot on. And I think the notion of democratizing customer lifetime value and democratizing understanding and access to customer lifetime value, just the simple notion of in your clustering, the scoring 1 to 3 versus 1 to 5. So you could have more refined, or forgive the word, granular segmentation and clustering. I think that was a very good, simple, accessible step. I agree with you, going back to something you referenced earlier about data literacy and data numeracy. If I raise that with a data science or analytics or BI group, they would sort of, shrug their shoulders or roll their eyes. But when you are talking with people who really, like a call center or a contact center, when you show them that kind of data, when you can visualize those kinds of things, I think it really does have an impact and influence, not just on the perception, but on the culture, the customer culture. And it brings us right back to the very beginning of what does customer centricity mean? And to me, it doesn't mean that you have a better ability to define it. It means your behaviors change around attaining it, cultivating it, managing it, growing it, developing it.
I think that's spot on. What I want to touch right now is to shift gears a bit towards where do you think this customer centricity leads us, and what's your perspective on mainly on the retail and e-commerce? Let's take the time machine together, and how do you envision the adoption of it and the use cases in the future?
So, as we have both established in this, and I hope the listeners come away with, that the single biggest danger of CLV is in the acronym itself, which is customer lifetime value is inherently an aggregate, when in fact, the real value of it comes from thoughtful, intentional segmentation, clustering, or self-segmentation and self-clustering. In terms of the vision, you will forgive me for quoting myself. The issue is not, the issue overwhelmingly right now is, how do we serve our best customers, our most valuable customers better? How do we get them to love us more? How do we move some of our typical, normal, average customers up in terms of to be more like our best or better customers? And to me, vision comes from the conversation I want to be in the room when you have with some of your best OmniConvert clients is, okay, we have a vision in our industry, in our sector, of how we want customers to get the greatest value from the capabilities we offer and for what they need to do from the insights that we've gleaned from them and with them. So I believe that it's customer transformation lifetime value, not just customer lifetime value. And strategy increasingly is not going to be about how do we raise or increase customer lifetime value. It's how do we meaningfully transform ourselves and our customers to maximize value for our stakeholders, for our best customers, and for our typical customers. That, to me, is what the future is going to be about. And yes, I believe AI, ML, and generative AI are going to play a greater role in that, not a minimal or marginal role in that.
That's my perception also, and I think we are just coming from let's say from a 2.0 economy towards a 3.0 or whatever point economy in the future, and I'm actually excited and delighted to assist of this kind of transformation, because the humanity should be leveraging this type of
I agree. Power. What kind of pushback or what kind of traction are you getting with your better clients? Do they get it, or are you still in the educational and collaboration process with them?
Yeah, what I think it's my main concern is this this thing that I've also pointed out a bit. The internal champions get it, but they have a lot of let's say inertia in the organizations. The bigger the company, the bigger the inertia, because if you look at the declarations of the retailers, the big retail companies, they claim that they are customer centric, they adopt data, they are innovative, and they want to do these things. But what is the main issue is that there is no internal alignment towards hey, we have our best customers, say that, and that's the progress they try to make. How do we align our interests so that we make more money and they make progress? That's the disconnection.
I almost completely agree with you, but I think maybe because you are an entrepreneur and I am protected as a quasi-academic, that you are being too polite, because I don't think it's inertia. I think it's resistance. And let me tell you why. And this is one of the things that I find so interesting about your company and your approach. Over a decade ago, yes, I'm getting that old, I wrote a book on digital experimentation, the innovator's hypothesis. And one of the most important findings, which I did not expect at the beginning, one of the most important findings, because I was doing classes and research on this, is you use experimentation not just to discover and test hypotheses, you use experimentation to discover and recognize resistance. Why? Because you know this better than 99.99% of people in the digital space. The cost of doing a digital experiment is so low. But even though the cost of the experiment is low and you could learn a lot from it, they still won't do the experiment. They won't do the experiment. So it's not an economic reason. It's not a financial reason. There is some other source of resistance. You may choose to brand it as inertia. I think there is a reason, and that reason is either laziness, which we would call inertia, or people are afraid that if the hypothesis tests valid or not valid, there will be a price to pay or an organizational or reorganizational or budgetary consequence for it. And that is a form of resistance. So that, to me, is one of the most important cultural and organizational insights. What's one of the best ways of overcoming that? Having a KPI like customer lifetime value, because surely you want to do things to elevate customer lifetime value, because that's good for everybody on this. So sorry for that long-winded response, but I don't want your people listening to this to go away thinking, oh, it's inertia. I think they have to overcome resistance.
Yeah, beautifully argued, and I agree with you. So yeah, in some companies there is.
Oh, I am so disappointed that you agree with me. Let's have a good argument on these.
In some companies there is resistance, but I don't know if I am allowed to speak about the companies that are not our clients. I think the main case was that people in this command chain, they try to look good, they try to look better for their bosses, and I think that's the kind of reasoning why this is happening. Because don't give me more work, give me some automated way to look better to my boss so that I can keep my job and so that I can get my bonus with the lowest effort.
That is a profound insight, because I'm observing the same thing from a slightly different angle, which is, how can I use these technologies to automate and reduce costs so I look good because I've reduced costs? Or how do I use these technologies to augment, add value, i.e., make me look smarter and more capable and higher impact and influence? So that, to me, my background is economics and computer science. That is the most interesting indifference curve. Do you get a greater return on marginal dollar or marginal euro invested in automating a workflow or augmenting a decision maker? I don't know. I think that's going to be a source of great experimentation and exploration.
That's right. I want to wrap up. I don't want to wrap up this session without touching this, let's say, idea that I have, which I haven't added in the book consciously, about building like a council of customers that are influencing or that are voting the destiny of the organization going forward. What do you think of that? Because if we look from, I don't know, as objective as possible, yes, I'm an entrepreneur and I'm biased. Yeah, I want to make more money. I want to thrive. I want to make a change in the world with this, with my perspective towards this methodology. But besides that, if we look from outside, we have this competition. We have a lot of companies that will surely die in the next 5 to 10 years because retail is overcrowded. So we have a lot of players. We have too many companies and not enough people, right? So basically, the supply outweighs the demand. So it's clear that some companies will go bankrupt, will fail, will vanish, will get eaten. But in 5 to 10 to 15 years, we will see decision makers using data in order to understand where the behavior will go. And we will see the rise of the influence of data science at the helm of the organizations. But what I've seen that it will happen, or it can happen, but I want to see your perspective on this, is to have a statistically significant council of customers that will vote towards what should be built or done next so that we continue to thrive or to transform ourselves and to evolve.
So I could not agree with you more on this. I would also urge you and anybody listening to this to look at some of the work done on decision markets, which is one of the ways of using market mechanisms to have your best customers or constituents and your typical customers and constituents send signals that suggests a trajectory, a direction, an opportunity, and build some sort of pricing or prioritization mechanism in there. But this is why we who do we want to, my very first book, which is now over 20 years ago, actually longer, but I won't go into the details, was on the C word, collaboration. What you're really saying, I'm putting words in your mouth, is that you just don't want a customer council. You want customer and client collaborators who can suggest things that you work on together for mutual economic and strategic and learning advantage. And that's what I think is so awesome about digital economics and digital infrastructures, because innovation is becoming a marginal cost. I joke in my classes here at MIT that the paradigm has shifted for innovation from research and development to experimentation and scale, because networks make scaling experiments, discovering new things faster, cheaper, simpler, and more scalable. So I completely agree with you. So what you're really saying, again, putting words in your mouth, is who do we want our customers to become? Innovative collaborators and collaborative innovators to mutual advantage. So absolutely, I support the vision that you're presenting here.
Super. So I think that sums up our session today. Thanks a lot for joining me. Thanks a lot for all your influence in the market and the fact that you've basically summed up the direction where the companies should be going. And I think the best thing is your contribution to influence companies to become not only customer centric but more humane, because what I've seen in your work is this direction towards transforming lives of the individuals, of the customers, going beyond the economics and looking at how their lives get better thanks to your products or services as a company.
Well, you're very kind, and I very much appreciate this opportunity to talk with you and listen to you, and yes, collaborate with you. And I hope this is not just the first conversation that we have.
For sure, for sure. Thanks a lot, and all the best from Bucharest. And as for you out there, we'll see each other in the next episode.